I am happy to draw part with you to this quiet place in order to speak a little of the meaning of life on this day of mourning. This place seems very still and quiet, serene and untouched by the hurry of the world. Here, the souls of those long gone look out upon the world and see us. But have we stopped to listen to their counsel? Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today, tomorrow, and forever, to mourn the fresh loss of the sweet soul. Here's where we are, and where we are is where we're meant to be. Come, come, sweet soul, awaken! Don't move too quickly. Coming to the other side isn't easy after all. Welcome to the after. You may recognize me. I have gone by many names, by many people. But you, my friend, you may call me Keeper. I'm here to keep you on the path, to guide you to where you must go. That is my job, after all. We all have jobs, even here. Yours is to find your place, dictated by the choices you've made in life and solidified in the hereafter. On this journey, you'll come to know the essence of who you truly are. For every action in life, both beautiful or ugly, there exists a counterpart in the after. And it's through this recognition of past deeds and misdeeds that we may emerge enlightened. Not to fear, spirit, we're all composed of juxtapositions, both light and darkness, which inform our qualities. Now is the time to choose which of these qualities you must reckon with. Spirit, I am your guide, not your judge. The power here is yours. After all, whose condemnation could sting more than one's own? Listen! Lessons that we seek. What is learned beyond the grave must be something of a magnificent, divine nature that we can only hope to conceive. Let's begin. Listen. Listen to the tales of a Requiem.
Place upon a freshly molded grave. From Bindle's Opera House in the village to Broadway is a great step, but I tried to take it. My ambition fired. When 16 years of age, soon East Lynne performed here in the village by Ralph Barrett, a coming romantic actor who enthralled my soul. True, trailed back home, a broken failure, when Ralph disappeared in New York, leaving me alone in the city. But life broke him also. In all this place of silence, there are no kindred spirits. How I wish dews could stand amid the pathos of these quiet fields and read these words.
Samantha, gardener. I, who kept the greenhouse, lover of trees and flowers, often life saw this umbrageous elm, measuring its generous branches with my eyes, listening to its rejoicing leaves, lovingly patting each other with sweet, ailing whispers. And well they might, for the roots had grown so wide and deep that the soil of the hill could not withhold aught of its virtue, enriched by rain and warmed by the sun, and yielded it all to a thrifty root, through which it was drawn to the trunk and thence to the branches and into the trees, where from the breeze gave life and sang. Now I, an undertoning of the earth, can see that the branches of the tree spread no wider than its roots. So how shall the soul of a man be larger than the life he has lived? Theodore, the poet.
As a young boy, Theodore, you sat for long hours on the shore of the turbid spoon. With deep-set eye, you sat staring at the door to the crawfish's burrow, waiting for him to appear, pushing ahead. First his antennae, moving like shells of hay, then his body, colored with soapstone, gemmed with jet black eyes. And with a trance of thought, you asked yourself, what he knew, what he desired, and why he lived at all. Your vision soon changed to watching men and women, hiding among burrows of fate amid great cities. And you sat there watching, waiting for their souls to come out, so that you could see how they lived, and for what, and why they crawled so busily along the sandy way where the water fails, as the summer wanes.
Mrs. Williams. I was milliner. Talked about, lied about, mother of Dora, whose strange disappearance was charged by a rear. My eye, quick to beauty, so much besides ribbons and feathers and buckles and leghorns and felts, to set all sweet faces of dark hair and gold. One thing I will tell you, and one I will ask. The stealers of husbands wear powder and trinkets, and fashionable hats. Wives, wear them yourselves. Hats prevent divorces, they also prevent them. Well, now let me ask you, if all the children born here in Spin River have been reared by the county, somewhere on a farm,
and their fathers and mothers have been given the freedom to live, enjoy, change the things that they wish. Do you think that Spin River had been any the worse?
Brown roads.
All they said is true. I wrecked my father's rake for my loads to dab only, but this is true. I was buying wheat for him as well. He couldn't margin the deal in his name because of his church relationship. And while George Reese was serving his term, I chased the will-o'-the-west of woman and mockery of wine in New York. It's definitely to sicken of wine and woman when nothing else is left in life. The supposer head is bowed and gray on a table covered up with acrid stubs of cigarettes and empty glasses. And you look up and there's your theft.
Lydia Humphrey.
Back and forth, to and from the church, with my Bible under my arm till I was gray and old. Unwedded, alone in the world, finding brothers and sisters in the congregation and children in the church. I know they laughed and thought me queer. I know the evil souls that flew high above the spire of the church, laughing at the church disdaining me, not seeing me, but if high air was sweet to them, sweet was the church to me. It was the vision of the poets, democratized.
Constance Hadley.
You praised my self-sacrifice, Spoon River, in rearing Irene and Mary, orphans of my older sister, and you censure Irene and Mary for their contempt for me. But praise not my self-sacrifice and censure not their contempt. I reared for them, I cared for them, true enough, but I poisoned my benefactions with constant reminders of their dependence.
Do you promise to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you. Those who are most deceitful are the hardest to forget. I have met some honest souls in my time, but which are you? Lies, damned lies will catch you and keep you bogged down in your grave. Ah, the bells. Did you hear them when you first arrived? Now the second contabulation of the evening chimes to press us onward. We only have six beacons to press us onward until the sun rises. And if you have not found your place until then, you simply cease to exist. This is the truth. Deceit isn't within my nature. Now let us press onward, gentle soul. What could there possibly be to fear?
The act of the Spartan boys greatly praised, who hid the wolf under his cloak, letting it devour him uncomplainingly. It is braver, I think, to snatch the wolf forth and fight him openly, even in the streets.
admit dust and how to paint. The tongue may be an unwilling member, but silence poisons the soul. Be reigning who will, I am content.
Mary Basin, you observe the carved hand with its index finger pointed heavenward. That is the direction, no doubt, but how shall you follow it? It is well to abstain from murdering lust, to forgive, do good to others, worship God without graven images, but these are external means, after all, by which you chiefly do good to yourself. The inner kernel is freedom. It's light, purity. I can no more find the gold than lose it, according to your vision.
Walter Simmons.
My parents thought I would be as great as Edison, or even greater. For as a boy, I made balloons and wondrous kites, and toys with little clocks in them, and trains with tracks to run on, and telephones made of hands and strings. I played the cornet and painted pictures, modeled in clay, and played the part of the villain in the opera room. But at 21, I married, and I had to live. And so to live, I took up the trade of making watches and took up the jeweler's store in the square. Thinking, not of business, but of the engine I studied the calculus to build. And all the river watched and waited for it to work. But it never did. A few consuls even thought the store hampered my genius. But that wasn't the case. The truth was this: I didn't have the brains.
Captain Orlando Killian.
Oh, you young radicals and dreamers, you dauntless fledgling to pass by my headstone, mock not its record, my captaincy in the army, and my faith in God. They are not denials of each other. Go by reverently and read with sober care. Our great people, riding with defiant shouts, the centaur revolution, spurred and whipped to a frenzy, shook with terror, seeing the mist of the sea over the precipice they were nearing, and fell from his back and precipitate all to celebrate the feast of the supreme being. How was I, a little blasphemer, caught in the drift of a nation's unloosened flood, to remain a blasphemer and a captain in the army?
Widow McFarlane.
I was Widow McFarlane, weaver of carpets for all village, and I with you so the Lord life. You who are singing to the shovel and lovingly watching the works of your hands. If you reach a day of hate, of terrible truth, the cloth of life is woven, you know, to a pattern dim in the loom, a pattern you never see. You read high-hearted, singing, and guard the threads of love and friendship, for noble figures of gold and purple. And after other eyes succeed, you have woven a moonlight strip of cloth, for your laugh and strength, for hope or lazy, for shapes of love and beauty, the loom stops short, the pattern's out. You're alone in the room. You have woven a shroud, and the hate of it lays you in it.
Reuben Painter.
Reuben Painter! Well, Emily Spots, your prayers were not wasted. Your love was not all in vain. I owe whatever I was in life to your hope that would not give me up, to your love that saw me still as good. Dear Emily Spots, let me tell you the story. I passed the effect of my father and mother. The milliner's daughter gave me trouble, and out I went into the world, where I passed through every peril known of wine and women and joy of life. One night, in a room in the Rue de Rivoli, I sat drinking wine with the black-eyed coquette, and the tears swam into my eyes. She thought they were Morris tears, and smiled for thought of her conquest over me. But my soul was 3,000 miles away in the days when you still taught me in Spoon River. And just because you can no more love me, nor pray for me, nor write me. The eternal silence of you spoke instead, and the black-eyed coquette took the tears of hers, as well as the deceiving kisses I gave her. Somehow, in that hour, I had a new vision. Dear little spots.
Pennywitz, the artist.
I lost my patronage in Spoon River from trying to put my mind in the camera to catch the very soul of a person. The very best picture I ever took was of Judge Summers, attorney at law. He sat upright and had me pause till he got his cross-eyed straight. Then, when he was ready, he said out loud. And I yelled, overruled, and I caught him, just as he used to look when saying, I accept.
Objection! Who shall sustain the lost souls of Spoon River, left to yellow and cowardice, drifting away like the autumn leaves, turning to the mulch beneath my feet?
Objection! Objection!
Oh, you disagree?
Objection!
What is this dissent from the heart of Spoon River?
Objection!
Ah, but you're no coward. There's a lion's flicker there, I see. Is this generosity of spirit, or... Oh, this one I love! Come, friends, come! Tonight cannot be all grim and grime. Let us celebrate our time. Little Willie Green was really mean and very stingy too. He always wanted some of what you had, but he gave nothing to you. And when his mom would give her jelly roll to hide him, he would try. And when the kids would ask him for a bite, you'd hear Willie cry.
I ain't gonna give nobody none of this jelly roll. I wouldn't give you a piece of cake to save your soul. My mom told me today when she went away to be a good boy. She bring me a toy. I am her pride and joy. There ain't no use of you to keep on hanging round. I love you, but I hate to turn you down. The kids, they won't be made. My jelly roll ain't great. I know you want it, you can't have it, and I ain't gonna give you none.
Thomas Rhodes.
Very well, you liberals and navigators who run intellectual, you sailors of the heights imaginative, blown about by erratic currents, tumbling in the pockets of air. You, Margaret Fuller's lass, Petite and Daisy Chapel shows, you've found, with all your boasted wisdom, how hard the last it is to keep us all from splitting into cellular atoms. While we, the seekers of earth's treasure, getters and hoarders of gold, are self-contained, harmonized, and compact, even until the end.
Emily Sparks.
Where is my boy? My boy in what far part of the world? The boy I loved best of all in the school. I, the teacher, the old maid, the virgin heart who made them all my children. Did I know my boy aright? Thinking of him, a spirit aflame, active, ever aspiring. O boy for whom I prayed and prayed in many watchful hour at night. Do you remember the letters I wrote to you? The beautiful love of Christ. Whether you ever took them or not, my boy, work for your soul's sake, so that all the clay of you, all the dross of you may yield fire of you. So the fire is nothing but light. Nothing but light.
Deaconess Taylor.
I belong to the church, to the party of prohibition, and the villagers thought I died of eating a watermelon. In truth, I had cirrhosis of the liver. For every moon, for 30 years, I would sit behind the prescription partition in Trainer's drugstore and pour a generous drink from the bottle marked Spiritus Fermenti.
Robert Davidson.
I grew spiritually fat living off the souls of men. Why, if I saw a soul that was strong, I wounded its pride and devoured its strength. Just to enlarge my own power. Why, the very shelters of friendship knew my cunning. For where I could steal a friend, I did so. And for where I could enlarge my power by undermining ambition, I did so. Thus, to assert and prove my superior strength was with me a delight. The keen exhilaration of soul gymnastics. Why, devouring other souls, I should have lived forever. But their undigested remains bred within me a deadening nephritis, with fear, restlessness, sinking spirits, hatred, suspicion, visions disturbed. I collapsed at last with a shriek. I heard the acorn. It does not devour other acorns.
Edmund Pollard.
I would I had thrust my hands into the flesh of life, and to the disc-flowered bee infested, and to the mirror-like core of fire, the light of life, the sun of desire. For what are anthers worth, or petals, or halo rays, shadows, mockeries of the heart of the flower, the central flame? All is yours, young passerby. Enter the banquet room with a thought. Do not sidle in as if you were doubtful whether or not you are welcome. The feast is yours. Nor take but a little with a bashful thank you when you are hungry. Is your soul alive? Then let it be. Leave no balconies where you can climb, nor milk-white bosoms where you can rest, nor golden heads with pillows to share, nor wine cups when the wine is sweet, nor ecstasies of body and soul. You will die, no doubt, but die in the depths of azure, wrapped in mad and kissing the queen bee. Life.
Mrs. George Reese.
To this generation, I would say, memorize the mood verse of truth and beauty. It makes you return your life. My husband had nothing to do with the fall of the bank. He was only cashier. The wreck was due to President Thomas Rose and his vain, unscrupulous son. Yet my husband was sent to prison, and I was left with their children, to feed and clothe and school them. And I did it. I sent them forth, all clean and strong into the world. And all the wisdom of Pope the poet. Act all your part. They're all the honor lives.
Ida Creepy.
Nothing in life is alien to you. I was a penniless girl from someone who stepped off the morning train in Spoon River. All the houses stood before me with closed doors and drawn shades. I was barred out. I had no place or part in any of them. And I walked past the old McNeely mansion, a castle of stone mid walks and gardens with workmen about the place on guard, for the county and state upholding it for its lordly owner full of pride. I was so hungry that I had a vision. A giant pair of scissors dipped from the sky like the beam of a dredge and cut the house in two like a curtain. And at the commercial, I saw a man who winked at me as I asked for work. It was Wash McNeely's son. He proved the link in the chain of title to half of my ownership of the mansion. And through breach of promise suit, the scissors. So you see, the house, from the day I was born, was only waiting for me.
Ah, yes, the balance between excess and generosity. Give not all you have, yet don't take all from others. It's too much, you will die, no doubt, despite your desires. A mansion on a hill will not save you from a grave beneath the ground. 'Tis here, you see, we're all made one. Mulch of the earth, worm, food, and decay. The great balancing act. Spirit, our time is drawing to a close. 3 bells remain before the sun banishes our otherworldly refrain. Is Is this enough time to know who you truly are? Do not turn away from me! I know knowing who we are is hard, but Spirit, trust me when I say that none of us are light only. Darkness echoes and lingers too. It is humanity, this duality of spirit. Come, come, you will get what you deserve.
The rest of them, and we never had any peace with our treasure. The crops failed, Miriam took the cattle, and lightning struck the granary. So we mortgaged the farm to keep going. And my husband grew quiet and worried all the time. And then some of the neighbors refused to speak to us, taking sides with his brothers and sisters, and I had nowhere to turn. And it wasn't in the past when one can say to themselves, no matter, so-and-so, my friend, or we can settle this with a little trip to the cater. And then the dreadfulest of spells infested the rooms, and I set fire to the beds, and the old witch house went up in a roar of flames, and I danced in the yard with arms waving while he wept like a freezing steel.
Washington McNeely.
Rich, honored by my fellow citizens, the father of many children, all born there, at the great mansion house on the edge of town. Note the cedar tree on the lawn. I sent all the boys to Ann Arbor, all the girls to Rockford, all the while of my life receiving more awards and honors while sitting under my cedar tree in the evening. As the years went on, I sent all the girls to Europe, dowered them when married, and gave the boys money to start a business. They were strong children, as bright as apples. Until the bitten places started to show. But John fled the country in disgrace. Jenny died at childbirth. I sat under my cedar tree. Harry died in the debauch. Susan was divorced. I sat under my cedar tree. Paul became invalided from study. Mary became a recluse at home for love of a man. I sat under my cedar tree. All my children were either gone, broken winged, or devoured by life. I still sat under my cedar tree. My mate, the mother of my children, was taken from me. I sat under my cedar tree. I boiled for 90 years. Oh, Mother Earth, who rocks the fallen leaf to sleep.
Mrs. Kessler.
Mr. Kessler was in the army. He drew $6 a month as pension and stood at the corner talking politics or sat at home reading Grant's memoirs. And I supported the family by watching, learning the secrets of the people through their curtains, counterpanes, shirts, and skirts. For things that are new grow old at length. They replace the better or not at all. People are prospering or falling back. Rents and patches quieted with the time. And there are stains that back full of soap, and colors that run spite of you. Blamed are you for spoiling the dress. Handkerchiefs and napery all have their secrets. The laundry life knows all about it. And I went to all the funerals held here in Spoon River. I swear I never saw a dead face, without thinking it looked like something washed in iron.
Circe. I wanted to go away to college, but rich Aunt Percy wouldn't help me. So I made gardens and raked the lawns, and bought John Owen's books with my earnings, and toiled for the very means of life. I wanted to marry Delia Prickett, but how could I do it with what I earned? And there sat rich Aunt Percy, who sat in a wheelchair, half alive, more than 70, with her throat so paralyzed that the soup ran out of her mouth, like a duck. A gourmand yet, investing all her income in mortgages, fretting all the time about her notes and rents and papers. That day, I was chopping wood for her outside, and reading Prudent in between. And I came in the house for a drink of water, and there she sat to sleep in her chair, with Prudent lying on the table, and a bottle of chloroform on top of the book, which she used sometimes for making tooth. I poured the chloroform on a handkerchief and held it to her nose till she died. Oh, Delia, Delia, you and Prudence taken my hand, and the coroner said she died of heart failure. I married Delia and got money. A joke on you, Spoon River.
Zilpha Marsh.
At 4 o'clock in late October, I sat alone at the country schoolhouse, back from the road and mid-stricken fields. An eddy of wind blew leaves on the pane, and crooned in the flue of the cannon stove, with its open doors blurring in the shadows, and spectral of a dying fire. In an odd mood, I was running Platchett. And all of a sudden, my wrist grew limp, and my hands started moving rapidly around the board till the name of Charles Cousteau was spelled, who threatened to materialize in front of me. I rose and fled from the room bareheaded, into the dust, afraid of my gift. And after that, the spirits swarmed. Chaucer, Caesar, Paul Marlowe, Cleopatra, Mrs. Surrett, wherever I went with messages. Mere trifling twaddles, Spoon River agreed. Talk nonsense to children, don't you? And perhaps I see what you never saw, and I haven't heard of, and I have no word for. I must talk nonsense when you ask me what it is I see. Margaret Fuller Slack.
would have been as great as George Eliot. For look at this photograph of me, taken by Pennywit. Chin resting on hands, deep set eyes, gray too, and far searching. But there is the old problem. Should it be celibacy, matrimony, or unchastity? Then, John Slack, the rich druggist, wooed me, lured me in with the promise of leisure for my novel. So I married him, giving birth to 8 children. I had no time to write. It was all over for me anyway, as I ran the needle in between my hands while washing the baby's things, and died from lockjaw too, an ironic death. So hear me, ambitious souls. Sex is the curse of life.
Mabel Melviny. I bought every kind of machine that's known. Grinders, shellers, planters, mowers, mills and rakes, and plows and gushers. And they all sat in the sun and rain, getting rusted, warped, and battered. For I had no sheds to store them in, and no use for most of them. And toward the last, when I thought it over, there by my window, growing clear about myself, as my pulse slowed down, I looked at one of the mills I'd bought, which I didn't have the slightest need of, as things turned out, and I never ran. A fine machine, once brightly varnished and eager to do its work. Now, with its paint all washed off, I saw myself as a good machine that life had never used. Louise Smith.
Herbert worked on engagement of 8 years, when Annabelle returned to the village from the seminary. I mean, if I let my love for him alone, it might have grown into a beautiful song. Who knows, filling my life with healing fragrance. But I tortured it, I poisoned it, I blinded its eyes, and it became hatred, deadly ivy instead of clematis. And my soul fell from its support. Its tendrils tangled in decay. Do not let the will play gardener to your soul, unless you are sure it is wiser than your soul's nature.
I am the keeper of souls, both in the after and on earth. This is a magical place where the boundaries between spheres remain thin. I exist here, guiding new souls in the night, and by day, tending to the weeds and muck that threaten to take over the stones. Should I, out of spite, allow the trindles to take over the markers of the unforgiving souls? Should I cast judgment on the living and punish them in death? 'Tis work to pluck them one by one, expose their roots and let them wither in the sun. 'Tis care and tenderness that take time. But this is time we do not have. You are playing a dangerous game. I warned you at the beginning. When the clock strikes 6, you will cease to exist. This is your responsibility. You must take initiative. Spirit, I will not label your attitude, call you spiteful or forgiving. My job is to guide, and you must decide. Onward we press. Until then, there is no rest.
Oh, say, let us fly to the sky here. Flying machine, jump in, Miss Josephine. Oh, joy, what a feeling in the ceiling. Oh, high, up in the sky so high. Come, Josephine, in my flying machine going up. She goes up, she goes down to herself and the bird on a pin in the air. She goes, then she goes up, a little bit higher up. And the bird is on fire. Come, Josephine, in my flying machine going up. Goodbye.
your heart. And that is you. And if the people find you can fiddle, why, then fiddle you must for all your life. What do you see? A harvest of clover? A meadow to walk through to the river? The winds of a corn. You rub your hands. Or else you hear the rustle of skirts, like the girls who practice their dance at Little Grove. To you, Cooney Potter, a pillar of dust, or the whirling of leaves Mina Brunish drought. They look to you like your redhead Sammy, skip to you like poor Laura. I never had time to count my 40 acres, not to mention of getting more. With a chorus of bassoons, castanets, and horns, all stirred in my mind by crows and robins, or the creak of a windmill. Only these? I never stirred upon my life. That someone did not stop in the middle of the road to whisk me away to a dance or to a picnic. In the end, I got my 40 acres. In the end, I had a broken fiddle, and a broken laugh, and 1,000 memories, and not one single regret.
Soretta, listen. My life's blossom might have bloomed on all sides, save for the bitter wind which stunted my petals. From what you, the village, could see, from the dust, I lift a voice of protest. My flowering side you never saw. Ye living ones, ye are fools indeed, who do not know the ways of the wind, or the unseen forces that govern the processes of life. Schroeder, the fisherman.
I sat on the bank above Benedort and tossed crumbs in the water, just to see the minnows bump each other until the strongest got the prize. Or I went to my little pasture. The lazy sows sat asleep in the wallow or nosed each other lovingly, and emptied a basket of yellow corn, just to watch them push and squeal and bite and trample each other to get the corn. And I watched as Christian Dalman's farm, of more than 3,000 acres, swallowed the Patrick Beachman as a bass will swallow a minnow. And I say, if there's anything in man, spirit, or conscience, or breath of God that makes him different from the fishes or the hogs, I'd like to see it work!
Eugenia, Todd.
Many of you passers-by had an old tooth that was an unceasing discomfort, or pain in the side that never quite left you, or a malignant growth that grew with time, so that even in the profoundest of slumbers there was a shadowy consciousness or phantom thought of your tooth, or your side, or your growth. So too would thwarted love, or defeated ambition, or a blunder which mixed your life hopelessly to an end will, like your tooth or your side, stay with you in your eternal sleep until perfect freedom from the earth's sphere comes to you as one who is waking, healed and glad in the morning.
Davy Matlock. Suppose it is nothing but the hive, that there are drones and workers and queens, and nothing but storing honey, material things such as culture and wisdom. For this next generation, the generation never living except as it swarms in the sunlight of youth, strengthening its wings on what has been gathered, tasting on the way to the hive. From the clover field, the delicate spoil. Suppose all this, and suppose the truth, that the nature of man is greater than nature's need in the hive, that you must bear the burden of life as well as the urge from your spirit's excess. Well, I say to live it out like a god, sure of immortal life, though your doubt is the way to live it. And if that doesn't make God proud of you, then God is nothing but gravitation, or sleep is the golden goal. Grippy the Cooper.
The Cooper should know about tugs, but I learned about life as well. And you, who loiter around these graves, think you know life. You think your eyes sweep about a wide horizon. Perhaps, in truth, you're only looking through the interior of your tug. You cannot lift yourself to its realm and see the outer world of things, and at the same time, see yourself. You are submerged in the tub of yourself. Taboos and rules and appearances are the staves of your tub. Break them, and dispel the witchcraft of thinking that your time is life and that you can live.
Amelia Garrett.
Yes, here I lie, next to the stunted rosebush, in a forgotten place in the fence, where the thickets of Seaver's woods have crept over and grown sparsely. And you are a leader in New York, the wife of a noted millionaire, a name society's columns, beautiful, admired, magnified perhaps. By the mirage of distance you have succeeded in, I have failed. In the eyes of the world you are alive in, I am dead. Yet I know that I have vanquished your spirit, and lying here far from you, unheard of among your great friends. In the brilliant world where you move, I really am the incomparable power of your life that robs it of complete triumph.
No, the knight is nearly dead! You souls may get this far without finding your place. As I squint, I see the moon being pushed from the sky, preparing for the dawn. Die 3 steps apace! No, we need more time. Seek back from this place, close morning light!
Let us not lament that which we cannot control. I am the keeper. Despair no longer. I will not let you dissipate. It is with love and tenderness that I embrace my role. Let us embark on our final hour to find the place for your soul.
Now won't you listen, dearie, while I say, how can you tell me that you've gone away? Don't say that we must part. Don't break my aching heart. You know I've loved you truly many years. Love you night and day. How can you leave me? Can't you see my tears? Listen while I say, after you've gone, you left me crying. You've gone, there's no denying. I feel sad. I miss the tears that I've never had.
Elizabeth Childers.
Dust of my dust, and dust with my dust. O child who died as you entered the world, dead with my death, not knowing breath, though you tried so hard, with a heart that beat when you lived with me. It stopped when you left me for life. It is well, my child, for you never had to travel the long, long ways that begin the school days. When the little fingers would blur under the tears that fall under the crooked letters. In the earliest room, when the little mate would leave you alone for another. In sickness, in face of fear by the bed, death of a father or mother, or shame for them, or poverty, and maiden sorrow of school days ended. And I was nature, that makes you drink from the cup of love, though you know it is poisoned. From what would your flower face have been lifted? Botanist weekly, cry of what blood to yours? Pure or foul, it makes no matter. It is blood that calls to our blood. Oh, and your children, what they might have been. And what of your sorrows, sweet child? Oh, child, death is better than life.
Sarah Brown. Maurice, weep not. I'm not here under this pine tree. The balmy air of spring whispers through the sweet grass. The stars sparkle, the whippoorwill calls. But thou breathest while my soul lies rapturous in the blessed nirvana of eternal life. Go to the good heart that is my husband, who broods upon what he calls our guilty love. Tell him that my love for you, no less than my love for him, wrought out my destiny. And through flesh I want spirit, and through spirit peace. There is no marriage in heaven, but there is love. Archibald Higby.
I loathed you, Spoon River. I tried to rise above you. I was ashamed of you. I despised you as the place of my activity. While there in Rome, among the artists, speaking Italian, speaking French, at times to myself, I felt I was free of every place of my origin. At times, it felt I was reaching the heights of art. Breathing the air the masters breathe, seeing the world through their eyes. But still, they passed me by saying, "What are you driving at, my friend?" Sometimes the face would look like Apollo, at others, a trace of Lincoln's. There was no culture in Spoon River, you know. So I burned with shame and held my peace. What else could I do? All covered over and weighed down with the soil of the Western world. Instead of aspire for a better birth in this world, with all of the river rooted out of my soul.
Mary McNeely. Oh, passers-by, to love is to find your soul with the soul of the beloved one. And when the beloved one withdraws itself from you, then you have lost your soul. It is said that I am a friend, but my sorrow has no friend. Hence explains my years of solitude at the home of my father, trying to get myself back and to turn my sorrow into a supremer self. And there is my father in all his sorrow, sitting under the cedar tree, a picture that sank into my mind, breathed infinite repose. Oh, you passers-by who have made life as fragrant and white as two roses against earth's dark soil. Eternal peace.
William and Emily.
There is something about death.
Like love itself,
If with someone with whom you have known passion,
the glow of youthful love,
you then, after years of life,
together for the sinking of a fire,
and thus fade away together,
gradually, faintly, delicately,
as it were in each other's arms.
passing from the familiar room,
That is the power of unison between two souls, like love itself.
We're at a close, dear spirit. Which of these places shall keep you? You hesitate? No, no! This is it! The final moment. you at the beginning. When the clock strikes 6, you've not found your place. You simply cease to exist. I don't know what happens beyond my graveyard. I have no place to keep me safe after. So choose. Truth, temperament, desire, attitude, will, or passion. Which of these places shall keep you? Surely this must be it. Why do you hesitate? The time is now.
Oh, sweet mystery of life, at last I found thee. I know at last the secret of it all.
All the longing, seeking, striving, waiting, yearning, the burning hopes, the joy and light, tears that fall. For 'tis love and love alone the world is seeking. And 'tis love and love alone that can repair.
Tis the answer, tis the end, and all of living. For it is love alone that rules for
For 'tis love and love alone the world is seeking.
For 'tis love and love alone that can repair. Tis the answer, tis the end, and all of living. For it is love alone that rules
What mysterious working is this, that from the shroud of night you exist here in the brightest of day, blood pooling in your cheeks, breath billowing in your lungs. It is clear you're not a soul for me to possess, but one of your own possession, not as spirit as they are, but one who lives. And so, perhaps, though it is evident you do not belong here, perhaps the eternal residents of Spoon River can offer some solace. Do not let this requiem be in vain. In all this place warmed by the sun, it is braver, I think, to live. And so, live. I shall keep you no longer. You have been given the rarest of gifts. If you could look back out on your life, would you make the same decisions?